Hello, good evening everyone. We had two excellent presentations, so I'll try to be sweet and short. My name is Filip Ambruš. I'm the QA lead at Infinum, basically the host of these talks. And I just realized, like, we're a Croatian-based company. What's with the Macedonians and Swiss companies? Like, do everyone work at Swiss companies from here or what?
Not me, pretty much.
We need to break that trend. As I said, I'm QA lead at Infinum, which basically means that I'm more in a, let's say, technical role, not managerial role. I don't have a team of testers which I push towards their end goals and progress in career. I'm more here to decide and to reflect and to introduce some new changes from a technical perspective. That's why my presentation will be a bit more practical than the previous two. And what I want to talk about is the challenges of IoT testing in practice. You see, for the past 4.5 years, I've been working on a project that's an IoT project, which basically from some months ago I can actually publicly talk about. It's a MasterConnect project that we've been developing for Signify lighting that's used to be called Philips lighting. So it's quite a big client, it's quite a big project, and it's quite a complex project. Now, why did I start with learn everything about the system? Well, basically, what is the MasterConnect system about? It's about installing smart lighting in professional solutions. I guess most of you heard or maybe have some experience with Philips Hue. Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, that's it, but for businesses. So for Philips Hue, you will buy one smart light to maybe 5 if you're quite enthusiastic. But for companies and for businesses, just look at the floor and the rooftop above you. Basically, there's quite a large number of lights, which means that we needed to develop a native mobile application, which will be a part of one of the components of the entire system. So the entire system consists of smart sensors, which are called lights, because we usually pack them in these kind of luminaires. You don't actually see the sensor. They consist of switches, which are based on ZigBee Green Power technology. They are also compatible with additional sensors, gateways, and a cloud, which is used for registration and login, and for actually backing all that data up. Now, from what I just said, I said like 6 different components, which all need to work flawlessly in one system. That means that on this project, we have several different teams working on the same goal. We have the hardware team, which designs and produces the hardware. We have the firmware team, which produces the firmware that goes into that hardware. We have the cloud team, which develops and sets up the cloud. And we have the mobile app team, which is us. And we basically needed to prepare and develop one app to rule them all. So something that would combine all of it and work as flawlessly as possible for the user. So basically everything needed to work under the hood without the user being aware of the complexity behind it. Now, all that means that you have different layers of complexities stacked on top of each other. That means that in order for you to be a good QA on this project, you really need to understand the system itself. Typical onboarding for a new QA who comes to my project usually lasts from 4 to 6 months before they are somewhat semi-independent in executing their tasks. There's really quite some complexity behind it, and there is a reason why I, as a lead on that project, actually demand such an in-depth understanding and onboarding on such a project. At the beginning of it, we tried the agile working way, which unfortunately for many, I would say, legacy or well-established companies means use what we currently have, just write down agile on that and let's just work day to day. Everything is possible. We can build and ship out everything in 2 weeks, 3 weeks times. No, that's not possible. Actually, our initial deadline was broken for a year. So not for the mobile app, but for the entire system, we overstepped it for the entire year. But what we did learn from it was, hey, this is not working. The process is not working. We really need to insist on learning about the system, and only then we will be able to actually summarize it on smaller code-dependent features, which will in the end work and not result with gazillion of blockers, criticals, and everybody being on their edge and stressed out and burning out, actually. What's also very important is to thoroughly document whatever you find out. What do I mean by that? Insist on specifications, insist on design documents, but also don't solely depend on them. There are QA processes, there are QA tips and tricks, there are a million of different useful information that doesn't need to be a part of some official specification, but they would be quite helpful for other testers to know as well. That's why we created something called a MasterConnect QA handbook, which right now is around, I think, 105 pages long, and that's only the stripped down version. And that's what every new QA who comes to the project actually starts with. And maybe most importantly, it actually tells you quite little about how exactly some features work. Those are in separate product level or system level documentation. This is a handbook which actually will guide you how to get introduced with the entire system and how to start testing. Second thing that you need to be sure to do when testing such a system is to diversify the mobile phone's testing setup. You see, MasterConnect system is basically a mobile app which you install on iOS on Android phone, and it will use a Bluetooth connection to nearest smart sensor. The smart sensor will then use Zigbee protocols to actually connect to all other smart sensors, and that actually means that you're quite heavily dependent on the Bluetooth chip within the mobile phones and the operating system of that mobile phones. So things that we learned is to bulk where you can. I couldn't think of a better word, so sorry for that, but I'll explain what I mean. As early as possible, try to test out several different mobile phones, write down their actual how do they actually perform, and instead of always testing on 5 different phones, try to find one which will cover you most of those 5 mobile phones. Exactly, the ones that have like the most commonly used. Also, avoid the trap of testing only the top of the line, some ultra pro models. In this case, this is a professional app. It's not intended for you and me to use. We will not just decide to one day get to a shop and buy 1,000 smart sensors and install them at our home. This is intended for professionals whose job it is to get to a building, install 120 smart lights, and then use the app to actually modify and configure them. What that means is that you need to be very careful about which mobile phones you will use to test. In our case, we kind of guesstimated at the beginning because this was something new when it was introduced. Don't get me wrong, there was smart sensors and smart commissioning before this app was introduced, but that was mostly used. It was relying on either using a gateway or using infrared for connecting to those sensors. So at the beginning, we kind of looked at our other projects and tried to combine, okay, these are the most common ones, and we started testing on them. But we were actually paying quite close attention to first data that we were able to receive once we went live. And we relied on that data to actually see, okay, these are the phones that we need to focus on, and these are the phones that we don't need to focus on. One of the maybe interesting things that we discovered is Huawei Helmet. No, actually that's the least of the problem. Huawei, I would say it's energy saving related options. Their modified OS is a brutal killer for the Bluetooth service on the mobile phones. We had some luck there because our intended audience actually did not use Huawei phones almost at all. China was not the designated market, so we could stretch it out. And basically, what was quite interesting, for instance, Nordic countries, we were all expecting, okay, those are installers, they maybe have some like company phone that multiple people are sharing and using. Hell no, they were using like iPhone 12 Pro models at that point, and Samsung, as usual, beats almost everyone else. Although, just a bit of tips and tricks, there's quite a difference between Samsung S models and Samsung A0 series and A50 or A70 series. S models and A50 and 70 series related to Bluetooth, quite similar actually, but those really low-end Samsung phones also a killer. By the way, I didn't mention it at the beginning. This presentation is actually based on the blog post I wrote about the same topic, but in more depth. If you scan the QR code, you will actually get the link. Another thing to keep in mind, hardware and managing hardware. At first, we of course started with some mocked environments, but here we are talking about, if you recall, several different teams working in parallel. That meant that we needed to acquire real hardware samples as soon as possible. They don't have to be pretty, they don't have to look good, but they need to be as close to the final product as possible. Also, what you need to be mindful is to strictly define where product level testing stops and where system level testing starts. One of the teams that I didn't mention a couple of slides ago is the so-called integration and verification. Basically, they are the ones who use the end hardware/firmware product, mobile app, and then test out the entire system, how it works. What do I mean by product level testing? Where does it stop and where the system level testing starts? Bluetooth communication is a two-way communication. We are the ones, in this case, who were developing the mobile app. We needed to make sure that it performs the best it can at any given circumstances, but we are not the ones who are developing the receiving end of it. That means that we needed to be very careful to not to step into testing how the system works itself and spend too much time, which means too much budget, focusing on that. We needed to make sure that our app is strictly covering and following the requirements given us by the system architects, but also the additional requirements that we come up during our initial early testings. That being said, be flexible and adapt wherever and whenever possible. If you're testing a feature and you see that from the product side, in this case mobile app, it works okay, but the end result of a system is not what you would expect, don't just put a check mark or click pass on your test case and that's it. Communicate that. Let the other teams involved in such a development process know, hey, I found something that might be a bug. Can somebody investigate and look into it? At the end, in these types of projects, you all have the same goal, to get to market as soon as possible, so reduce time to market, and to get the best possible product to market as soon as possible. This one I would skip for now because it actually relates to the last thing that I would like to talk about, and this will touch upon the automated testing and how to utilize something that I mentioned before, and that's the smoke environment. I've mentioned that it's really important that in an IoT project you get real hardware samples as soon as possible. However, due to, I would say, standard development practices, that's sometimes not possible. Just recall the beginning of COVID crisis. Everything everywhere was getting disrupted, and that also affected us. We couldn't get some samples as soon as we hoped that we would get them. And how did we actually took care of it? We actually created an HTTP server, which we call the Monster, where we actually intercept the Bluetooth connection before it is made with a real device. This actually helped us to automate quite a number of test cases, especially UI-related cases, which in the end, not only the UI-related cases, but also the Bluetooth-related cases, that helped us to reduce the regression testing time from 5 to 6 weeks to 2.5 weeks. That means there's quite some saving time that you get for reaching the market with the new, the latest, and of course the best possible app version. One of the things that we also needed to take care of is prioritize test cases. Of course, we want to test everything. We want to prepare test cases for everything. But what we did is actually label test cases. Hey, this is something that's a main test case. This new version cannot go out without this being executed. However, these other 10 cases can be considered additional test cases. They are nice to have, they are nice to be executed, but if they don't get executed and they fail at some point, there will be such a problem in the production. Okay, a button might be offset a bit, but it works. That's what's actually important. What this also enabled mainly our developers was it gave them, or it removed the restriction that they need to work from the office. So currently in Zagreb office, we have a room which is like these two rooms combined, which is simply filled with different hardware that we need to test upon. This actually helped developers to test on the mock environment. It gave them and us the ability to automate integration tests, to automate UI and Bluetooth related tests, and it enabled us to execute quite a number of, how would you call them, negative scenarios, where we were able to actually test out how will the app behave under certain negative conditions. Now, usually I have quite an extensive and prolonged wrap-up summary of all of this. In this case, since it's quite late, I will skip it. But what I want for you to actually keep in mind is this quote. IoT projects are never simple. They are always complex due to its very own nature. They are comprised of several different components which need to work flawlessly with each other. We, as testers, as quality control, as quality assurance, we are the ones who need to light the way and take care of the whole project team, shift left wherever possible, and be the ones who will guide those kinds of projects to production, and in the end, who will be the ones to light the way. Thank you, everyone. Any questions, or shall we finally start eating?
Like to have some comment. This is exactly a great example. I said that immediately where the process will not work, even before you tell that, because like it's different kind of project, Internet of Things. It needs a different kind of testing. So if you go in this kind of environment, now you learn from Philips something how they learned how to make the process. Actually, they were making the process. They were seeing some things and they were defining the process. Still is a process, but it's not the basic process. It's something they learned how to do it. And yes, the conclusion was pretty much summing it all up. That it's never just a right, straightforward way to do it. There's not only one way to do it, so only right way to do it. So
Yes, indeed, and that's very fair comment, because when we started, there was 4 of us, not 4 QAs, in the entire mobile and app team. There were 1 iOS developer, 1 Android developer, 1 tester, and designer and a PM. Now there's 25 of us. So the project got more and more complex. The priorities increased, the requirements increased. And with all of it, our processes actually also needed to adapt and to evolve as the project did evolve in the end. It was very rough at the beginning, but I would say that for the past 2 years, we are quite stable, and actually we are the ones who are an example to all others. Okay, this is how things should work, and these are the things that you should pay attention to, and these are the things that you definitely need to. Sir, any other?
You ever been involved in a project where the whole team, testers and developers, should be prepared with a higher level of knowledge of some technical skills for any project, because that's the must for not getting root cause or something. This is some kind of project. Maybe it's low. Maybe this is lower level of knowledge needed for the developers or testers or something. We are doing involving higher technical project which takes a longer time to be prepared technical with some more technical skills before reach the start of the main project.
Well, to be very honest, this is actually that kind of a project. I usually do this presentation in half an hour, so I had to skip over quite some things. But as I said, onboarding on this project, even if you are an experienced QA, takes 4 to 6 months for you to be even remotely semi-independent. Not only for the QAs, it's for developers as well.
Yes.
And what's kind of interesting when you work on such a project, you start to realize how much the people from the entire project are actually relying on you as a QA,
Yes.
because you are the single point of knowing everything.
Yes.
Developers, they know their job, but they usually know feature by feature. They've been working on feature A, C, and Z. The other developer worked on B, D, F.
Yes, exactly.
But you are the one who actually tested everything, and you are the one who needs to know the fine details. So this is actually such a project. Of course, there are people who know more, there are people who know less, but everything actually comes with time and learning.